Hey, thanks for making this post. I think it's a really, really good post, and I'm going to make a video right now to give you my experience, share my experience with this, and hopefully it can help you out. Now, I have to say the caveat is that I haven't seen your interactions, so I'm going to simply focus on the things that you can do after the interaction to help reduce flaking. So that's just my caveat so that you're aware. But really great post. I think this is going to be helpful for you and hopefully a lot of people as well. So let's touch on some of the things about flaking. So, first of all, I think it's important to understand what is realistic and at least what is the minimal realistic result that you can expect from numbers when it comes to cold approach. And I would say if you get at least 1 to 2 dates from 10 numbers that you collect is a realistic kind of healthy number. Obviously, if you can get more, that's good. But I try to not go below 1 to 2 dates for every number that I collect. Otherwise, that's kind of like it's there is a problem that we need to address, and it's not really in the kind of the texting or anything as such. So I would say that is more of a realistic ratio. So if you're getting 1 to 2 dates from every 10 numbers that you're collecting, I wouldn't worry that much. I'll probably focus on like seeing how we can increase this number. But the reasons why the girls may be flaking is number one, it could be because they don't have enough attraction at that point. And the thing with attraction is that it's fleeting, okay? Like you can be super attractive in your interaction and you can have like a really good interaction. And when you text the girl, she doesn't really remember much, or she doesn't like, she loses a little bit of attraction because you were attractive in the moment, but once the interaction is over, it kind of like loses the momentum. And I'm going to touch on some things that you can use to help combat this. But it just comes down to like the world that we live in right now. People are just so distracted. Um, it's so easy to forget about what happened during your day and forget about people that you've met. So it's crazy, right? That's just the world that we live in. And I'm going to give you some solutions about this. But attraction is probably the main reason why she's not replying to your first text. Now, this doesn't always happen. There is, you can see here in my hot seat, these are two cold approaches that I did and went on a date on the back of the approaches without using anything like Instagram or anything like this. They were like cold approaches and then some texting and then straight to the date and then back to my place. So it's still possible to do cold approach and have some texting exchanges and then go on a date successfully, but I would encourage the following solutions, which I will touch on just now. The Before I go to this, the second thing that could be the reason why they're flaking is because comfort. But typically, comfort is when you already have some level of exchange in the texting and you're offering them to go on a date and they say, I'm not sure, maybe. It usually is because they want a little bit more comfort, meaning they're not sure whether they're not feeling safe enough to go on a date with you, because that's reasonable. Women need to feel safe before coming on a date with you. Now, how do you overcome these issues and how do you fix these potential problems? Well, first of all, let's talk about attraction. Assuming that your text game is good, right? There is no issues with your texting, there is no issues with your interactions. Let's assume that everything else is fine. How do you increase attraction after you got the number? Well, using Instagram. Instagram is, I hate social media, but I have to say, leveraging Instagram, especially if you have a strong Instagram profile, which I encourage you to try. I'm working at least on an Instagram game course, but it's going live soon. But if you can try and work on your Instagram, that helps so much. So next time when you meet a girl, try and exchange Instagram and phone number, and then that way you have her on both platforms, because of Instagram and all social media stuff, women just get distracted. And like I said about the attraction is kind of like fleeting. It just goes away. It doesn't stay in her mind all the time. You want to use Instagram to be able to stay in her mind. Every time she opens the app, she sees a story of yours that is high value or anything like this. It helps you stay top of mind. and it is very, very useful. Now, if you don't have Instagram, you can still use WhatsApp stories and like status, which is basically stories for Instagram, but basically for WhatsApp. And you can post things there that increase your attraction. And I can go into detail onto this if you want me, but that is the basic gist. Otherwise, what you can do with the texting, if she's not responding, is do it in a value ping. I speak about this in my texting course in phase one. And basically, value pings is just sending a message that is highly engaging without asking any question or expecting anything back from the girl. And you want to do this to basically build attraction, build value, but also engage the conversation. Typically, she would reply to your message, but if she doesn't, you can still send another two pings. I would say a maximum of like three pings maximum if she doesn't reply, and spread them out between 3 to 7 days apart between each ping. Okay, I go into this in detail in the text game, so do watch that course in phase one. Now, like I said, comfort, I don't think it's a comfort issue if she's not responding to the first text. Comfort is much more so to do with trying to get her on a date and her agreeing to the date. So I'm not going to focus on that today too much. But yes, like I said, outside of your interactions, which I cannot comment on because I haven't seen them, I would try and do the following things. Definitely try to include Instagram in your closing strategy, right? Try to work on your Instagram. Check out the course if you haven't checked it out just yet, but Instagram is huge. WhatsApp stories / status. If you don't have Instagram, if your Instagram is not ready, try to leverage Instagram, WhatsApp status and stories the same way you would do Instagram stories, and try to use value pings. Now, like I said, I would try to say something about the in-person interactions and what you could do to reduce flaking. Matter of fact, I would say things like grounding is definitely a thing that you can do in your interactions to try and build a little bit more comfort if you already know that you're building good attraction. And grounding is basically just sharing information about yourself. Things like where you live, where you've grown up, what your childhood was like, and what your job is, what do you do for a living. Basically anything that shares real information about you so that people get to know you as a person. And that just takes you from being just a random person to being an actual guy that they know, like a real human being. And another thing that you can do to build comfort is once you've exchanged numbers, is stay in an extra 5 minutes, right? Because a lot of guys are like, "Can I get your number?" And then they get the number and they just leave. But when you talk to a girl after getting her number, now you're having a conversation under the premise that you guys are dating. Because if you exchange numbers, you've mutually agreed to date each other, to be like, okay, we like each other enough to exchange numbers and potentially go on a date. And now when you're talking under that premise, it feels like, okay, you guys are kind of dating, and that just helps build a little bit more comfort. So these are the only things I can really say about what potentially could help you with your interactions without really having seen your interactions. But it can work. You don't need the Instagram game all the time, even though it does help, because you can see here in my hot seat, these two hot seat episodes that I have are of basically me approaching these girls in person, doing the cold approach, exchanging numbers, sending a few messages, and then setting up the date without Instagram, without anything. So it does work, but maybe we need to fine tune a few things. And sometimes even using Instagram does help. So that is what I would say on this, and hope it helps. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, I hope this has kind of clarified a few things.